Hello and welcome back to the StitchWitch Podcast. I am your host, Ourielle, and I'm so excited to be hosting yet another check-in. I am, I think, 3 episodes in, so grab a drink. I have my brand new knitting mug, and I don't know if you can see, it's got like cables on the sides. I picked this up at a new yarn store local to me. It was the Bichotte Yarns. I think it's like also in Canada. I drove a little bit to a new store and I got this and a couple of other things. We're going to talk about some FOs, some whips, and some fun projects. So if you want to have a cozy knitting time, strap in, let's get cozy, and let's talk about it. Okay, I'm having like a bangs crisis. I think they're a little bit too long. I want to grow them out, but if I grow them out, I also can't have like the baby bang situation. It's frustrating. Anyway, in terms of projects that I have done, I have that finished object, a new one. Well, not really a new one. I talked about this last time. This is my Burgos vest, and it has been, I think, officially a week since I cast this off, but it's been a little bit of time since I've replaced the buttons. So last time I maybe talked about how I felt like it was a little bit dated and I didn't really know what it was. I was thinking maybe it was the buttons, maybe it was the fact that it was a double rib or a 2x2 rib button band. And I went to Bichotte Yarns to pick up a contrast trim and then also something for this. So I have quite a few things to show you, but one of the most exciting parts is that this vest officially has new buttons. Oops, that hem. I always find that my hemlines always like pop up. Okay, so here is the finished vest in its like final form. I like it a lot more now that the buttons are more blended into the final garment. I have worn this a ton. And this is a very, very exciting like situation for me because that means that as a knitter, I will find a way to wear my projects, even if they're not necessarily always emblematic of my personal style. I think I was actually wearing this sweatshirt in my last podcast. So in terms of like things that I wear all the time, a oversized crew neck, at home sweatshirt clearly ranks really high among them, but it's not necessarily something that I'm always wearing out after, right? A vest that was colored like this, in this cut, that's not particularly like high-end looking. Like, it looks nice and it is made of a nice material. I just didn't think that I would get a lot of wear out of this, and yet I am. So that is giving me a lot of hope as a knitter that I will continue to grow and expand my wardrobe of hand knitted garments. I will almost like diversify my style a little bit. I think when I buy commercial garments, I'm very not conservative. I would argue I'm not a very conservative dresser actually. But I think I tend to like things that are always kind of the same. Like I like very traditionally like hourglass shape. I like colors that are at my color season. I like textures and finishes to be very like fresh, I think, or incredibly historical looking. And all of that can be really, really scrutinized with a fine-tooth comb when you're shopping online and you have like the world is your oyster and you're straight size like I am. It's not particularly difficult to be really, really picky. And because there is this kind of like, well, it's a commercial garment. If I don't like it, I can just not wear it out and I can return it with the tags on. And if it doesn't work for me, I don't feel like bad about saying there's something better for me. What this has taught me is that with knitting, you put so much love and so much like work into creating a garment that you almost like celebrate it for what it is. And if there is something that's like irreconcilable about it, you can kind of address that one thing. So for instance, I felt like the buttons were a little bit like they weren't doing a service to this. I figured let's try different buttons, and the different buttons really did make a significant impact on the overall outcome and the wearability of this garment. And I feel like it's pushed me in a couple ways. Like I've tried layering it in ways that I don't typically dress. I found myself trying combinations that I don't usually do. And as someone who really enjoys fashion and experimenting with fashion, I still have like my circle of the neighborhood that I enjoy. And I think having this vest that is a little like outside of my comfort zone, outside of my natural, proclivity, has given me like a push to explore adjacent like circles of fashion. And that has been very, very fun. I've also found myself, because, of all the knitting content I consume, being served like fashion content again, which is something that I find really, really enjoyable. I used to devour like magazines and magazines and magazines and books and textbooks and like podcasts and runway shows, and I would enjoy fashion a lot, like as a hobby, as a pastime, as like a source of inspiration and artistic pleasure. Part of it is because, my mom working in the fashion industry, part of it is I think like as a young girl, it's one of the like hobbies you're exposed to. And this gives me that feeling again of like exploring fashion as experimental, as like an extension of the avatar of the self. It's been fun. Anyway, so that has been this. I've been really proud of it. I still need to weave in my new button ends. Oh yeah, and I closed up the buttonholes a little bit, so they're a lot neater, they're a lot tighter. I feel proud of what I was able to accomplish here. Another thing I need to mention is that I frogged my novice cardigan. So that was the Drops Belle and Drops Charisma, yeah, together. And there was nothing wrong with the cardigan. Well, there was. So I mentioned that I was playing a little game of yarn chicken because despite buying enough yarn, I ended up sizing up for some reason, well knowing that petite knit patterns are very, very generous with ease, and also well knowing that like I have been losing weight slowly but steadily, and it's something that I'm working on. Like I'm working on my fitness, I'm working on my diet and nutrition. It's one of those things that like ostensibly this will be like me getting back on track. Not that it matters, but like, you know, like I was recommended by a doctor to like watch my health because I'm pre-diabetic or whatever. So like this is a situation that I need to take like fairly seriously. And so hopefully I'm not necessarily going to be the same size forever. And yet I still felt this like, this is also like a body image thing. Like I felt fearful of clothing that is too tight or clothing that like will remind me that I'm bigger than I want to be, right? So I always have this inclination to size up, which is fine, again, in a commercial setting where you're not making the garment. But when I knit and I bought yarn for a small and I knit a medium and then I ran out of yarn, what I did was I played yarn chicken and I cropped it and I cropped the sleeve and I cropped the body. And I had mentioned that like the ribbing looked a little messy. And now that I have one garment, and we'll get further into it in a bit, now that I have some experience under my belt, I don't feel a need to compromise as much anymore. I am now between like projects in the sense that I've frogged all that yarn. It does look like ramen noodles. It's like super, super kinky and coily. I will need to rehang it, soak it, kind of re-spin everything back into yarn balls and all that stuff. But it is a project that I'm not super looking forward to because I don't think the mohair kinked as much as the wool. So the wool is like really, really curly. The mohair is kind of straight. I've tried to stretch it as I was like balling it into just a regular hand wound ball, but I don't think you can knit directly from that. I think I've heard that it messes up your tension, but that is definitely an update. In terms of what I'm going to do instead, I thought about redoing the novice cardigan just by adding contrast trim. So maybe contrast cuff, contrast like button band, and then contrast ribbing in the sleeves and at the hem. And I think that will give me something cute. I have some Drops Big Merino that I think could be adorable. It's kind of like a pale lavender pink and then with a baby blue. I think that could be nice, and perhaps like a difference in texture might also be nice because I'm working with a slightly larger gauge for like the ribbing essentially, and maybe having like the ribbing be flat and having the body be like fluffy. That could be fun. I'm just really kind of beyond the idea of wanting to do something basic. It's just like I've done some basic stuff. I feel like it would be nice to maybe continue on like the fun train. But yeah, that has definitely been a project. In terms of my pressed flowers cardigan, I had meant, or my pressed flowers shawl, I had mentioned last time that I made good progress, and I did. We are actually now done with everything up to the repeat or the border. So this is the shawl now. I could make it bigger. Like I definitely could stand to continue to add more and more rows. And the thing that's interesting is I don't think there is a standard. Not to say that the pattern writer didn't like desire for a standard. I think it is like 72 inches supposed to be from like beginning to end. But that being said, I don't know that everyone does the full length. I also have a ton of yarn. So that's the piece where I'm a little bit confused. I bought the recommended amount of yardage when I set out for this project. And I remember because it was, I think late last year, it was around Christmas time, and I was still new, but that's why I was just like, okay, let me just buy the recommended amount and not kind of stray too far. But this is how much blue yarn I have left. This is a lot of blue yarn. It's very, very like, I think last time when I came here, the ball was this big, and now it's this big. So there's a lot left, and there's a full ball of pink yarn. And I mean, I already knit this much. So I just highly doubt that I'm going to need to use up these two ginormous balls in addition to all of this. I feel like this could actually make me a hat with the leftovers. Granted, the border I think should be around 4 inches of width. So let's say it's like 2 of my hands. It's like this much. Is that going to use up 2 balls of yarn? I think not. Right? I don't think it's going to use up that much yarn. So my 2 options are either extend this shawl to be really, really large and fully have it like wrap several times around the body and just make it be like luxuriously big and comfortable. And like it's not even gonna like resemble a smallish shawl. But the problem is how deep it goes past my back, just because I'm a short person. I'm 5 feet tall, and the size that Amy Christoffers wants you to knit it until is 30 inches long from top to tip of the triangle. 30 inches is like half my height. So it's gonna go from like my shoulders to my butt. And I think that's a little long for a shawl, like a triangular shawl. And because every time you increase, you also increase the tip, there's no way to extend it without also kind of lengthening the top to the bottom measurement. So as much as I would love a huge blanket shawl, and I think it would be voluptuous, and I think it'd be beautiful, and I think I could do it in a matter of 2 weeks, it's just that I don't think it would be practical to have like such a ginormous blanket shawl. But I don't know, like this is what it looks like. I think it's really cute. I think I could stop it right here and have this be like the scarf, and kind of like extend my 4 inches on all sides for the border and have that be that, and it would be a completely wearable and regular shawl. But I could continue to expand it. I actually got the 100 centimeter cord. I think that's this length. It's pretty big. Yeah, 125 centimeters. This is the longest cord that ChiaoGoo makes. And obviously it is not long enough for this shawl because this shawl is a monster. But I have enjoyed working on this. I am a little worried about my stitch counts for the border repeat because as much as I have followed the chart, I have made little mistakes here and there. Like for example, you can see this one. There's a row where I forgot to hold the yarn in back, so I'm gonna have to go back and duplicate stitch this so it's not as visible. And there are plenty of petals, like this one has a little mess up as well. But overall, you know, unless I'm pointing to any one mistake, I don't think you can really see it. So I could definitely stop it here. But I don't know. I'm kind of, maybe what it is I keep increasing and increasing because I'm scared to go back and actually start the border repeat, because that would mean confronting my stitch counts. So that's a little bit of a little scary situation. But anyway, while I was finishing this and kind of having not much to work on, I cast on a couple of other things. Ooh, let me update you on my color quadrant crop. I left it in the other room. Give me a sec. No one tells you that when you knit, your whole world gets like surrounded with beautiful, soft, squishy things. Like I went to go step into the other room and like coming back in here, it's like, oh my god, look at all my pile of beautiful wool like turned into objects. It's so great. So anyway, this is my novice cardigan and what's left of it. And then here are all the balls that it turned into. But while we're here, this is my first t-shirt. I wanted to wait until I finished it, but it just felt like, I don't know, I didn't want to artificially inflate the amount of progress that I made. That does just feel a little bit insincere. So this is my color crop tee. Color quadrant tee. And she's almost done. Like she really is almost done. The only thing I need to do is my I-cord neckline. And here's the thing. I knew James Watts said, make your I-cord really tight because otherwise it's going to roll up. And I tried to make it really tight and it still rolls up. So I'm gonna have to figure out if I can fix this with the like blocking and pinning and maybe just like weighing down the cord, or if I'm gonna have to rip this out. But this is the top. I love the color scheme. So this came out like exactly the way I wanted, and this pocket came out a little skinny. Like I said, it's a little weird. It's kind of aspect ratioed like a phone. Like what is this? It's like, I feel like it should be a square, like a few rows wider. But this is the way that it's designed and patterned, and I didn't finish, you know, sewing it down, but I was tired of the flap falling all over the place. So we have it temporarily sewn up, but this is the crop. It's very, very cute. I think the color scheme is adorable. I fixed, obviously this blue situation here, but you can see a line of red dye where the yarn was kind of touching. And I guess that's a sign that this red does bleed. So I will need to block very, very carefully with maybe vinegar to keep it from like leaching. The back. So this yarn is Shirsty Cat DK with Drops Mohair. This is Drops Baby Merino. This is Drops Big Merino. This is Drops Baby Merino with the Mohair Silk. This is Patton's Classic Wool, and that's what I did all the way around. Right, so every color is kind of like an orientation of those two things. I will say, James Watts, flat-chested man, right? Woman with like, you know, size G breasts, so this barely covers my girls. I put this on, it fits impeccably, like everywhere in terms of like shoulders, arms, like the underarm, like this kind of cut is like really flattering, really nice. I put this on, it's a sports bra. Okay, it's a baby tee. It's a sports bra. It just covers the girls and that's it. So I will need to make another one. I can barely wear this outside of the house. I think this could be like a really sexy like summer like going out top. I think this could be cute like if I honestly I don't know. I don't know that many places where like maybe on the beach. But it's also like a wool t-shirt. So I'm glad I made this. Again, this was a scrap busting project. I also like am a new knitter, so this is fun like construction wise. I'm getting to a point where I see a pattern, I can make a pattern and I can follow it, and like just having the confidence to be like, yeah, this is not petite knit, but I can do it. Very empowering. Oh my god, this mohair is like a hazard. But yeah, the feeling of seeing something I've never done before and wondering like, okay, I don't know, you know, how thorough this artist or, you know, pattern writer is. I don't know if they're like someone who tends to really, really get into the details and like walk you through stuff. James is a great pattern writer, and this is intarsia, so like learning the way that you like, you know, hold your threads so that way they kind of like don't fall apart. I finally learned how to mattress stitch. You know, like a bitch should know how to mattress stitch, but I just learned how to do it properly, and I dare say it came out pretty good. There are some seams where I kind of forgot to pull tight, but generally, I will say, like, figuring out mattress stitch, figuring out how to do picking up, and how to do I-cord, like, all of that has gotten a lot better. Sometimes I still don't know which side of the stitches to pick up when I do, like, I-cord bind-offs. Like, sometimes I'll start on the wrong side, and then I'll go across and I'll be like, oh, I'm seeing this flip in the wrong direction, and I'll have to start over. But other than that, I didn't really have that many hiccups with this design. I will just say, like, in terms of the shaping, you know, there's no bust darts. There's no, like, there was no accommodating for, like, the really massive amount of, like, chest tissue I have compared to, like, the standard average straight sizing situation, which is why I'm eager to try Lydia Morrow's designs. She is a designer who's very, very aware, and I also think, like, Jessie May Designs is another one. Fuller bust friendly, and not just fuller bust in the sense that like when you have bigger measurements you tend to have a bigger bust in proportion to your measurements, but I think there are some designers who I think have like a fuller bust relative to like their arms, their rib cage, like, you know, their upper chest and stuff like that. And this is like a full bust problem. I think this is common, which the struggle is like, do I get something that matches my like upper measurement and then like I have a little bit less negative ease on the chest? Do I do something with like actually like my bust measurement, but my bust measurement is like not average? I think I don't remember her name, but her handle is Nerdy Knitter, and I know that because it's really fun. Like, it's like, hello, this is Nerdy Knitting. And that creator, that educator, she's, I guess, like certified to be a knitting teacher. She says that the average patterns are graded for like women with a bust size of B cup. So it's something about like the ratio of your upper chest to your full chest. And if you are anyone who has like a B cup or higher, like higher than a B cup, that means the gap between your upper chest and your full chest are not like standard for pattern making. Like, there are international standards, and most patterns seem to be written for like an average like proportion. And once you get beyond that, you need to start making like modifications or looking into like some of the ways that you might want to consider fit. And I'm starting to appreciate some of those challenges now. Like, as for instance, I mentioned with the novice cardigan, I chose like the medium, and like medium was definitely way, way, way too big because I was worried about the full chest. So we will see kind of like where I go from here. I've watched her video on like adjustments you can make as a fuller busted person, like what you can do to compensate or like get around how like average patterns are graded and what you can do for yourself. But as far as I'm concerned, I might try a Lydia Morrow pattern because she does include like bust darts and bust shaping. So there's like bust dart like 1 and then bust dart 2 for like much more like severe cup accommodation. So that is fun. And this is a whip that I am really, really almost done with, but I guess I'm dragging my feet because there's no payoff to me finishing this, which is sad because it's not like I want to unravel this or anything. But it just doesn't, it's not a super wearable garment as much as I wanted it to be. I could, of course, try to layer this on top of something else, but because it's so like, it's like hefty, you know, it's like a really nice, like hefty wool t-shirt. I think that would kind of be doing this a disservice. This would be really cute as a baby tee if I were like in high school and I wanted to wear like a nice little cropped sweater and like high-waisted jeans or whatever. But I think like I'm like not really at an age where I want to wear something like this anymore. Just as baby and as tiny as it is, you know, I don't know. Maybe I'll find a cool creative use for it later. But I was having the blues about this shirt. So obviously I cast on a different project. And I cast on the ranunculus. So this is my first lace pattern, and I had mentioned in my stash busting video that this is like a thing that I really want to do because the ranunculus is a classic knitting, you know, like rite of passage, and everyone knits a ranunculus, and anytime you go online, everyone's like, this is a great pattern, super flexible, like the gauge is really flexible, the yoke is really engaging to knit, and then like, you know, the sizes are really inclusive, and you can adjust the fit depending on whether you want it to have like a really boxy fit, or if you wanted to just have like a little bit of a boxy fit. Sorry, my bangs are driving me crazy. Anyway, it seemed like not a single person had bad things to say about the ranunculus. I think a lot of people think it's not my style. So if it's not your style, there's not much you can do about, you know, like the pattern. But in terms of the pattern being really clear, in terms of the design being really versatile, I've heard nothing but positive things. I am knitting this on 6mm needles. These are huge, 6mm needles, and 2 strands of drop spell. This was, again, my first lace pattern, but it's not charted as far as I believe. I'm still at the yoke, but only the yoke really has like lace designs, so I'm fairly certain it's just like a non-chart, it's just a written design. I have been using Sundragon tips and tricks as like a visual explanation, but Midori Hirose has her own, you know, like Knit Cafe Midori videos on YouTube to show you how to do the knits, and it hasn't been hard. And when people say this is a great like beginner garment, I must agree. So I'm using 2 strands of drop spell, and I did all of this in like 2 days. So it's pretty fast to work up. I kind of, not that I regret using the 2 strands, because that's what I wanted. I wanted this to be a sweater that I could wear to work in the office without having to wear something underneath or on top. So it can't be too sheer. Like the lace, of course, is going to be a tiny bit sheer, but it's not really going to like show skin. It just has like some fun lace detailing, right? It's not a sheer sweater per se. But if I were to do 1 strand of bell with the 6mm, I think it would be so much sheer. So I would love to do this again in a 1 strand, but for now, this is fulfilling the role that I wanted it to fulfill. However, I have reached a circle of hell where I make a mistake in my lace knitting. And as someone who is really bad at dealing with mistakes, I am having that like existential, like, oh my God, I just need to start over. Which I won't, but I really don't enjoy tinking this. I made a mistake in my, like there's a 4-petaled flower eyelet situation where your eyelets are supposed to look like this, like a 4-leaf clover. Hopefully you can see that. But I evidently made a mistake in some places where it ends up looking not like a 4-leaf clover and a little bit more like, let me see if I can find a mistake. Yeah, here, like this is what it looks like on this side, where it's like 3 on one side and then 1 on the other side. So I've clearly just made a mistake. And I started tinking backwards. Tinking backwards in lace is really confusing because I don't know what stitches what. So I have to like go backwards. I'm like, was this a yarn over or was this a knit 2 together? Like it's kind of hard to tell on the needles. And I could continue to tink backwards, but it does just take an hour per row. And I wonder if it would be easier just to frog down to the parts where there's just plain stockinette and then take the L and start that lace portion again with just a little bit more like care. Because what happened was I guess I ran out of yarn, so I attached a new ball of yarn, and then maybe because I was attaching yarn in the middle of the lace repeat, I kind of made a mistake. I think that is what happened. And unfortunately, the mistake is in the front part of the yoke. It's like front center is where the kind of like flower lace designs are messed up. If it were like on a shoulder, if it were like just at the very end in the back, I would be like, you know what, I'm gonna cut my losses. It's fine. No one's looking that closely at the sweater. But like at the front, like right at the center yoke, where my neck is, that's pretty visible. So I felt a little bit frustrated that I had made that mistake, and I am a little bit debating whether or not I should go backwards and like actually tink, or whether I should just like frog it. Because here's the other kicker. This is miserable yarn to work with. I will say, I was making this with the alpaca, and when I was holding it with an animal fiber, I did not feel pain. And I was like, people are complaining a whole lot about natural fibers, and I don't understand why plant-based fibers have such a bad rap in yarn. This gives me hand cramps immediately. There's something about the linen / cotton yarn and the 6mm needle, and the fact that like, I guess I have to reference a chart or whatever, but my hands fatigue so quickly with this. Like I'm having a far worse time knitting with this 6mm needle with a yoke that like goes by really fast, even though, you know, you need to be paying attention. It goes by quickly, it's enjoyable, it's engaging, I have no problems, and I now understand like the whole like this is an engaging knit situation, right? Because it is easy. Like the stitches aren't too hard, and it's not like the pattern repeat requires you to like keep track of a lot of different things. It's like short repeats that are, you know, you do them for a short amount of time and you kind of get into the groove and it like creates a nice satisfying effect. So I do have that potato chippy feeling. It's only hindered by the fact that I hate this yarn. It just does not feel good in the hand. It drapes beautifully. Like I will say, like when I fold this, it has like that really nice, lovely like floppiness. But God, I just want this to be over. So I did avoid, like I avoided this top by making this, and now I'm avoiding this by making it another thing. So let's talk about the last whip that I have on the needles, which is a tank top. So I don't remember the name of the tank top. I will put the name here of the pattern because it was a free pattern. I have been a little wary of free patterns because I have been told that not all free patterns are written super carefully. So sometimes you'll get patterns that have like mistakes, or they may not like guide you in a particular way, so they may not be a great place to start. However, I really just wanted a basic stockinette tank top, and I found one to use my beautiful Noro yarn with. So this is my Noro Tsumame, and I do find this to be an interesting colorway. And I had mentioned that I wanted to make the palmier sleeves with this, and it was going to be like a unique pop of color for my wardrobe, and I was really excited to see how it worked up. And this particular view is pretty because you don't see the nasty puke yellow in it, and you don't see as much of the brown, but this like pop of yellow makes me violent. Like this is yellow, makes me homicidal. Like I hate this color yellow. And there's this ugly poopy brown that also comes out. Not this brown, but there's another, oh here, this ugly poopy brown. These colors together, they make me feel all kinds of angry. But anyway, I found this free tank top pattern, and I believe it's because the yarn company was making a, like they were commissioning a pattern, but it was just a basic, I think, V-neck wide strap tank top. It's knit bottom up, and this is what I have so far. Oh my God, it's like Missoni colors. It's so bright. I just need this to be chevron, and then we're there. But yeah, this is the tank so far. It's 13 inches. The fingering weight stockinette. I mean, this is technically, I think, not a fingering weight. It's a 3.5 to 4 millimeter. I don't know. However, and it's described as a medium 4-weight yarn. This feels like a sport weight or a heavy fingering. Like this is not even DK weight. I don't know in what world. Okay, here's my beef, right? I have worsted weight yarn, and it's pretty freaking heavy. Like this is my worsted weight Plymouth yarns. Look at this difference. Like you can't lie to me like this. These are 2 different weights of yarn for sure. There's no way. Like 2 of these is one of those, right? So I don't understand what they're saying when they say this is a weight 4 yarn. It definitely does not read as a weight 4 yarn. But I did soak this today. And the interesting thing about this yarn, because when I was knitting with it, you could really see the gaps. So I'm knitting with 4 millimeter needles. You could really see, like when I hold it up to the light, there's a lot of like holes. It's transparent, almost translucent, but when you soak it, it really does. Noro does really bloom and really fill in every last gap. So now it almost looks more solid than it did when I was knitting it. But you know, despite these homicidal yellow stripes, I actually don't mind the way this looks. It's not my usual color palette. It's not what I typically wear, but because it's just a tank, I think it could be cute. Wow, it makes my body look really tiny to like hold it up like this. But yeah, I don't know if this is like, these are my colors, and I usually never wear green, and I never wear yellow, and I don't like this poopy brown, and I don't like this shade of magenta. So my husband and my friends were like, wow, this is a really interesting yarn for you to pick. And I mentioned this last time, but I think when I was picking this, I wasn't in my right mind because it was a birthday yarn. I think it was not represented the same on the website, which Noro frequently does. But in the end, I'm happy. This is one of those things where, like, same with this vest, where the design ended up being a little bit more dated than I would have liked. This is, the color scheme is a little crazy. It's a little more wackadoodle than I would have liked. But there is something about, like, the Noro yarn that is just, like, such a pleasure to work with. And it's almost intriguing to be like, I'm not going to not knit this because I have the yarn, I have the pattern. I'm already, like, 13.5 inches into this. I might as well finish it and see what it's like. And if I really, really hate it, I can frog it and do something else. But I actually think I will grow to really like this garment because it has beautiful drape. This is half silk. And then, like, from there, a quarter wool and a quarter polyamide. So the materials are really lovely. I think this will be a great spring top. And tsumame, I guess, means swallows. So it says, Tsumame is the barn swallow which migrates to Japan during cherry blossom season. It is a beloved sign of spring. So like, that is also really romantic to be like, this is my spring tank top. It's like symbolic of the Japanese swallows that come to Japan during cherry blossom season, which visually, no, it looks like I'm going on vacation to Puerto Rico, right? It doesn't necessarily say Japanese cherry blossoms, but the sentiment is there. So this might be like my spring tank top. It's been cool with cargo pants. Like, I have thought about ways I could style this that are a little bit outside of my comfort zone. Like these and this, a lot more in my comfort zone. This one, not as much, but I do think it'll be cool. This will be like another one of those situations where it's a cool fashion statement. I made it myself. I'm gonna find some ways to style it in a way that feels like true to myself. But I think this will be a better use of this yarn because I had 600 something meters of this, and I think the palme sleeves would not have used all of that. So I think I should be good to use up all of this yarn. I'm glad that it's even a little bit skinnier than I would have expected because that means I am using a little bit more yardage. And because it is slightly skinnier than the pattern recommends, I think the pattern recommends a DK, and this feels a little bit closer to a sport. But I don't know, I didn't gauge swatch. But anyway, it is measuring out to be, I believe, an inch smaller in circumference all the way around from what the schematic has recommended. I believe the pattern said it's like 101 centimeters around, and mine measured out around like 90 something, like 98 or 99, and that's perfect for me. So I am really actually looking forward to finishing this up. I don't like that it's bottom up because, again, like, I have this problem with my bust and drape, and I probably would have liked to go top down so I could see like whether, you know, I want more room in the bust or less room at the bust, because sometimes I find it a little bit easy to make myself look quite unflattering. But yeah, this is that kind of situation where I think I'll knit it, and even if it's unflattering, I'll find a way to style it, which is cool. So we're getting a little bit of like distress tolerance practice where this is not the idealized form of something, and yet I don't want to give up on it and I want to keep going. And I'm liking the way this is coming out. It's not, you know, maybe I'm like convincing myself I like the way this is coming out. It's really interesting, that's for sure. It's really interesting, and that's for sure. Okay, let's talk acquisitions. I have finally that beautiful yarn I got in. This is the Noro Haruito, and this is what I'm talking about. This is like my color scheme. Yes, it's juicy, it's cute, it looks like a little candy. It looks like, I don't even know what it looks like. It looks like a cloud. I love it. I saw someone holding this exact yarn, not this exact colorway, but like this fiber with a mohair, and they knit a petite knit sweater with it. I guess because this is a DK weight yarn, or this is a like a sport weight, I guess, and if you held it with a lace weight mohair, you could get something that reads as a DK weight, and that would be like a great springtime sweater. And let me see what the contents of this one are. This is silk cotton polyamide. So that one was silk wool polyamide. This one is silk cotton polyamide. Same. Oh no, this is 40 silk, 40 cotton, and 20 polyamide. So in terms of like what the outcome would be like, I think it would also make for a wonderful springtime sweater. And unlike the other one, I have two like bags of this, two balls of this. I have around 700 meters of this. I think it could be enough for a sweater, but I'm not sure. So I bought some contrast yarn for it. Let me go get my contrast yarn. So because I strongly felt like I wasn't gonna have enough yardage to make a full like sweater or a top with just that Noro yarn, I wanted to get a contrast yarn that would match and kind of complement the color scheme. So I went to Biscotte Yarns and I picked up this house yarn called Biscotte Albus. So this is the label. This is a 50% merino, 50% silk weight 4 yarn. It's got 150 meters or 164 yards. So I think 700 plus 150, that's like a 900 meter-ish situation. I think I could probably make a top out of that much meterage. Maybe not like a full-on sweater, but I probably could do, I don't know, I guess I need some suggestions, but I think this combination is just giving, it's giving candy, it's giving springtime. It's a little bit giving Easter, I do like concede that, but I do think this is really fun. I think it'd be a really fun top. And I guess I have to admit, this color saturation feels like it might be a little bit more flattering. I don't know, what do you guys think? This feels more me in terms of like, I love this color scheme. I love the peach, I love the pink, I love the navy, and I love the like the sorbet colors in here. It just feels so juicy and delicious. I need to figure out what project to make. I originally thought I would make Beads of Joy, again by James Watts. However, after the color quadrant crop fiasco, I just don't trust him to make a bust area that I'm not busting out of. Like a lot of the obviously project photos seem to be made to pattern, and no one there feels particularly full-chested. There are like plus size individuals, of course, but again, it's almost like there's a lot of like proportional plus size bodies where like their bust size is probably accounted for in the shaping. Whereas I just need something that has a little bit more stretch. So I'm still on the hunt for a perfect pattern for this. I don't want it to be like a sleeveless top. I would like it to be some kind of a blouse or a sweater. And after I saw that one on, it was some kind of Danish knitting Instagram account, so I can't reference the particular video that I saw. That was the Petite Knit design. But I'm probably gonna look for something from Petite Knit. Or if not Petite Knit, maybe like My Favorite Things Knitwear or something. I might do like the blouse #1 or something like that. But still not sure how to incorporate the purple. I don't know if like I can do like a contrast or if the yardage will really make a difference. But yeah, that is an acquisition that I have. And that is really the only acquisition I have, because the New Jersey wool walk is happening as we speak. Probably by the time I upload this video, it's going to be over. I have no explicit plans to go, but I'm really itching to buy some yarn. I have a new pattern design called the Yuki no Hino. It's a, like the winter day sweater, I guess. And it is a cardigan that has like an open flap and some cute like embroidery designs. I liked the cropped version, and my friend and I are thinking of knitting it together. I was maybe going to do it with the drops yarn that I had, but ever since I've decided that I'm just going to make the novice cardigan with the contrast yarn, I thought maybe we could buy new yarn for that. That being said, when I do the wool walk, I don't necessarily think that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, because there's scrap busting season, and like, am I supposed to be buying new yarn? No, but I am feeling like I have just been in a terrible like mental health mood lately, and knitting is the only thing that brings me joy. Like truly, I have very, very, very few things in my life that bring me the kind of like reassurance and passion and like excitement that knitting does. So to like then kind of put a dampener on it to dampen my passion, and like the one thing that I have accessible to me feels a little bit like, do you really need this right now? Like, is that like the best use for your mental health, is to like forbid you to do the thing that you like to do, and like the only thing that really keeps you from being like spiraling completely out of control? So I don't know if I really want to continue being like, no, you mustn't buy any new yarn for a project anymore. I am just feeling like I want to buy yarn for this wool walk. I want to collect the little stitch markers. I want to meet my stupid friends and like do the stupid knitting thing. And I want to visit the stores, and I want to do the yarn crawl, even though like I don't need to. Like no one needs to do this, but I do feel like I'm so sad all the time that I would like to do the yarn crawl. I would like to give myself this thing, but I don't know what I want per se. And it feels a little irresponsible to go into the yarn crawl and be like, ooh, I'm going to let the whimsies of the stores like show me what I want. And I'll just like buy whatever I feel like it, like whatever comes to me. Because I feel like that is how I end up with stash that I don't know what to do with, right? There's plenty of yarn that I buy because I'm like, I cannot leave this alone. I can't let this alone. Like I have to have it. And there's plenty of yarn that like grips me like that. And I have to have it, and then I have it, and then I don't know what to do with it. So I really want to go in with the plan. And I have some plans. I have some plans that are not stash related, but until I actually get my butt to the stores, there's no point kind of yapping about it. Hopefully my next podcast, you know, the yarn crawl will be over, and I will either have or not have something to show you. So that's that. And as far as other pattern acquisitions go, like that is it for me. I mean, that's a decent amount of knitting that I've done. So I don't feel like bad at all by my progress. Once a week sounds like a lot of uploads to do podcasts. I know that is the schedule that a lot of people do. Like, what did I knit this week? I'm a prolific knitter right now because I'm between jobs, but I feel like when you're like a working person, there's no way like you can knit this much. So I guess we'll keep the schedule for now because I have nothing else on my plate. I guess it'll change. It'll change in the future. I am already somewhat dreading the like everything I did this year video. I think there's going to be like a ton of finished objects, and I'm glad I'm going to have this archive because otherwise I'm not going to remember everything. The last bit of juicy information is that my mother has decided what she wants for Mother's Day, and she wants the Stella quilt cushion, which is crazy because I just purchased the pattern, not for her. I actually purchased it for myself to use up my scrap yarn. But I am actually really relieved that I'm going to get to make her one, because if I like that process, I'll feel a little bit better making myself one. Because I have some fingering weight yarn that I purchased from Rhinebeck that I haven't known what to do with because I don't love the colors, but they do work well together, and I think that would be a fantastic quilt cushion, and I think it'd be really cute. But I don't necessarily like want to make it right now. So because I have kind of an external due date, because part of the like want to make it fear is that it's new. I don't know how to troubleshoot it. I don't know if the gauge is going to be right. So there's a little bit of like, I guess, what do you want to say? There's not enough inertia for me to like get up and start something new all the time. Like if I'm working on projects now, it's not super like responsible for me to want to like start something new right away. But because she says she wanted this for her gift, that kind of like activation energy is given to me automatically because it's a present and I feel like I need to do the present and I need to do it, you know, within the time frame that it needs to be sent out by. So yes, very, very excited to shop for yarn. So that's one thing that at least I'm going to do during the yarn crawl is buy yarn for her Mother's Day gift. She wants it in pink, gray, and blue because that matches her living room. And I don't know what shades of pink, gray, and blue she wants. So I'm hoping to take her with me to one of the New Jersey yarn stores so she can pick her yarn. She can pick the like particular colors, and if she wants to buy yarn or whatever, it'll be discounted. So that'll be good news for me because I'll have like a quilt cushion. I'll be able to show you guys, and then hopefully if I like the pattern, I can make mine, and then it won't be as like stressful for me to like come up with something new. So that is everything for today. I don't think I have any new updates. This was hopefully a shorter podcast. I can't tell. Do let me know if this was interesting. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys very soon. Bye.